time. It's time. It's time. It's Commissioner Cooper, and it's time for TSS Fantasy. It's Commissioner Cooper, and it's time.
Why the fuck you got me up to the damn early Jason?
It's time.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's Commissioner Cooper, and it's time for TSS Fantasy.
Yes, it is.
Indeed, that sounded like you were getting the poopy out there, Nick. All right, we got a busy show tonight, big week 9, and a lot of action to cover. Let's start with our introductions because there's not many to get into tonight. Just Batman and Robin, the dynamic duo once again. Welcome to the studio, Nick. You got Flandered Macaronis.
Yes, hello. Welcome from a rainy Central Florida area. As Cooper Commissioner said, it is Batman and Robin at times. We don't know which one's which, but we do know which one is the greatest fantasy football podcast. Is TSS Fantasy, and you can go and get our shirts or merchandise where at tssfantasy.com just in time for the holidays. Get our long sleeves, tank top, and short sleeves.
Here's something Nick does not know. We'll get to that in a second. Don't forget, everyone, we are the fantasy show of the people, so visit us at tssfantasy.com. Get all of our current rankings, all of our latest shows, and the new store that's going to come out over the weekend. We're going to have some new products for everyone, including some water bottles, mugs, some hats, even some beanies, some tote bags, and want to be COVID friendly with some face masks as well. Also, I'm going to ask Wifey to help me out, and we're also going to add our avatars on there as well. So we'll have different ones with the commish. We'll even add the dumbass of the week logo as well. I think that'll be fun on a mug for someone for Christmas. So
you know what I'm smelling there, Coop?
What's that? What are you smelling?
I'm smelling some contest with some autographed merchandise. That's what I'm smelling.
I like it, although I don't think no one cares about our autographs. All right, let's talk about some other things. Don't forget, also on tssfantasy.com, we also have the link for the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network on there. Visit all the great sports podcasts from wrestling to racing, everything. We got it. All of the sports from hockey, basketball. Like I said, we got it all covered. Like I said, our last guest actually from Intercept Your Lunch, they even covered the Tour de France. So like I said, we got it all for you. Also a link on there for Unhinged Radio. Make sure to check all of the great podcasts out on there. 24/7 sports. So put it on your car, put it on the gym, whatever you like to do. Start with us from 8 to 9 a.m. We are the fantasy show of the people. And don't forget, this Sunday, wake up with Belly Up. We got our sports lineup again, 8 to 9 a.m. with us, TSS Fantasy. You're waking up with us. 9 to 10 a.m., the Bears pregame show. 10 to 11, 4th and 4. 11 to 12, Rough Cut. And 12 to 1, Dan Maynard's MD's Fantasy Football Extravaganza. So make sure you check everything out from us to you. We, again, are the fantasy show of the people. Let's get things started tonight. It's Friday night, and we're feeling all right. Let's start with a Thursday night breakdown. All right, we'll stop it right there to keep it family friendly. The Colts played the Jets last night, 45-30. This was actually, when you look at all the matchups in the end, we'll get into the matchups later on, but over this Sunday. But this might have been the fantasy extravaganza. I mean, what a game it was. It turned out to be, of course, all the Jet stuff coming in garbage time, but some decent fantasy points for the Jets. Talk about Josh Johnson last night. I mean, he resurrected 317 yards, 3 TDs, did throw a pick, 18 yards rushing. Although if you had started him please, you have my commissioner ballot. You're the man. I don't know who would have started him, but you'd be awesome if you did. Listen, Mike White, too, he came out starting Game Busters, too, at the start of that game. So he actually looked good. It was very disappointing that he had to go out because we might have really had a shootout last night, crazy as that sounds. Michael Carter did not come up to expectations from last week, 49 yards, 1 reception, 37 yards on the receiving, just 1 reception. So there wasn't a lot of the checkdowns last night. And we saw Mr. Moore. It was Mr. Moore, if you're nasty, last night, 7 receptions, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns. On the Colts side, Nick, you've been on him all, you've been on the resurgence of Carson Wentz. You've been talking about it. Here it is, another game. And listen, their schedule is really good. They got Jacksonville next week too. 272 yards, 3 TDs, 13-yard rushing. In the midst of all that, Jonathan Taylor, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions, 28 yards. Naheem Hines, 74 yards, a touchdown, 4 receptions, 34 yards. And Pittman still had a decent night, 5 receptions, 64 yards, and a TD. What an interesting game it was last night. Nick, your thoughts on last night's game?
It was right from jump, man. I mean, you had Naeem Hines buffed out with a 34-yard TD, and then the train just kept rolling for the Colts. There was a Naeem Hines sighting last night. He didn't score more than 3 points for the past 5 weeks. I drafted him in, I believe, the 13th or 14th round. I dropped him, and look who it is. So like I said, ball out was Carson Wentz, 272, three TDs, and no touchdowns. Like I said before, I said a couple weeks ago, Carson Wentz is back. Carson Wentz is back. And then, of course, you got the garbage time. Points are points. You know what? The Colts did not cover the spread. So
that was a late touchdown, too. Yeah, that was a late touchdown, I think, that might have closed that out. So if you're in the betting pools, unfortunately, you did not make out last night. But, again, interesting game overall. It was, again – the Colts look like a team on the rise. And, again, their schedule, of course, is dictating that as well. Again, Jacksonville next week. Again, in a not-so-tough division, you do have the Texans. You do have the Jags. Obviously, the Titans now a little bit downgraded without Henry. So the Colts might emerge here in the AFC South. And, again, the offense, like you mentioned, is starting to click with Carson. And Jonathan Taylor with Derrick Henry down could end up emerging as the number 1 overall running back to end this season. So great night for him. Great night for the Colts indeed. All right. Any final thoughts on that before we get to the news, Nick?
Yeah, just the thing. It just showed how valuable Mike White is to the Michael Carter owners, because as soon as Michael Carter, not Michael Carter, I'm sorry, as soon as Mike White went down, you just saw the plummet of Carter's production. So again, if Mike White's playing, Carter's going to have a good game. Now it's only been a game and a quarter, but still it's very telling. And I heard a very interesting stat today driving home. Do you know who is the 3rd leading quarterback on the Jets in TDs?
Yes, I did hear the same stat, and that was Zach Wilson. So, Wilson.
He started all season. He's only got 2. Josh Johnson's got 3, and Mike White, who's only played 5 quarters, has got 5. So it's very telling about the development of Zach Wilson. And Robert Saleh said in his press conference, basically, learn to play boring football. Don't play hero ball. Take what the defense gives you. Check down, and then we'll work from there.
Yeah, I know the Mike White owners, they got excited. Those who picked him up maybe thought it was a good start this week to stream him. Unfortunately, it didn't come through, obviously, with his injury. Again, he's definitely droppable if you got him, because I see them going to Zach Wilson. He's the kid you put the money into. And, again, he can watch what Mike White did, check down Charlie time, that can make you money. And look what, look what Michael Carter did with Mike White. And again, you got to temper your expectations going forward with him. Might have just been a flash in the pan, but we'll see. Anyway, let's get to the news. And today in the news, all right, OBJ, wow. Let's just take a moment and talk about OBJ, bro. Wow. Not traded, not nada. I mean, the thing come out with his dad. And, again, I don't believe his dad was correct in doing what he did. I mean, I can understand feeling how he felt. Because, again, there were times OBJ's got himself open and Baker just hasn't been able to hit him. So there is some truth to that. But again, there's no reason for all of the chaos and the cancer in the locker room, so to speak. It is very familiar. It smells of Terrell Owens almost. I mean, it's literally what it feels like. But interesting enough, now he has to go through the waiver wire. Who's first up? The Lions. After that, the Miami Dolphins. It could be anyone taking a shot at OBJ right now. And if I'm the Lions, why the hell not? I'd be the first thing I do. I mean, you need receiver help. I'm sorry if you're not happy here, but I'm going to go ahead and scoop you up. I have value right now with you. Whatever. And it's a very cheap contract the way I understood it earlier because the way he was bought out. So again, if the Lions, you got nothing else to lose, I take a flyer on him. Or again, Miami, why the hell not? Anyone should, to be quite honest with you. Take a shot at him, see what's up, see what he's got left. Nick, I bet you have a complete opposite opinion, and I'm going to swing it on to you.
I don't know if I have a complete opposite, but I don't know. I was trying to look for it today, and I couldn't find it. Maybe you have the answer. All right, so let's say if a team does pick him up. He doesn't want to go there. Does he have to report? And if he doesn't report, is he penalized, or how does that work?
I didn't hear anything about that part of it. So that's an interesting point, too. I haven't really heard anyone bring that up. So a good thing to bring up. We'll have to look into that. Maybe talk about that on Sunday show. Yeah,
because I'm saying if Detroit picks him up, he said, I'm not going to Cleveland to Detroit.
Right.
So what's the penalty on that? Now I understand. If he does clear, he can sign with anybody. There's there's 5 teams that potential landing spots. One of them that was actually mentioned was New Orleans. But I mean, if he clears waivers, he's going to want to go to a contender. So immediately that says to me he want to go to maybe Baltimore would be a good option for him. Tennessee would be a fantastic option for him. So I don't necessarily see him going to just any team that just wants him. I mean, at his stages of his career, he's 29 years old. He orchestrated that whole thing about telling his dad to send it out and to tell all his famous friends to tweet it out. I mean, come on, that wasn't just everybody. Hey, let's help out Odell. No, bull. All right. So he orchestrated that, but he's going to want to go to a team that he can get a ring. All right. So, and who can afford him, and basically who wants to bring that drama into the locker room. That's one thing. If your baggage outweighs your talent, you're not going to be around too much longer. So again, we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be very interesting in the next couple of days to see where he lands. Like I said, if he just wants to play, he can just go to any old team, but he wants to play for a team that's going to contend. Could you imagine if he ends up in Dallas?
Right. I mean, there's a lot of how about KC? I mean, there's another landing spot for him.
Yeah, I was going to bring them up, but they're a little down the ladder. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of options for him to go to. I mean, hell, he could end up in Arizona the way they got things stacked, or even the Rams. They got the stacked receiving. So who knows? Again, interesting to see where he lands. I'm not sure. Obviously, this is the best way to handle the situation. As you brought that up, actually, to your point, I'm wondering if it's more of like some of these other guys that have done this, where it's like, okay, well, if you come back, the Lions still own your rights, bro. So you would still have to go to the Lions and do whatever at some point. So I'm not sure how all that would work. What's that?
You mean Ricky Williams?
Like Ricky Williams, yeah, or whatever. I mean, there's a few other players that did it. So, anyway, to the point of that, I mean, I'm not sure if that's the way it worked, but interesting point to bring up nonetheless. All right, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals. And wow, so right now it seems like no Hopkins. I'm getting conflicting reports. It's maybe Murray, maybe not Murray. It's not looking like Murray. So it might end up being Colt McCoy. You don't have A.J. Green also out from COVID. So a very wounded Cardinals team coming into this matchup. But Colt McCoy's not a slouch, I don't think, as a backup quarterback. So your thoughts on that? Anyone you see or anyone you like from the Cardinals in this matchup and that you would put as a must start due to the injuries and such?
Well, immediately, as far as receivers come to mind, it would be Ertz and Kirk. I mean, those would be the two that I could see could benefit. Chase Edmonds could benefit as far as getting the swing passes out. And, you said that Colt McCoy is no slouch. He's okay. I mean, I'd probably take him both over Baker, but I mean, he's okay. He's been in the league for like 30 years. He's just hanging on. He can direct. I loved him when he played for the Longhorns, but he can direct the drive. I mean, he can get you over the hump for a game. But I would seriously look at James Conner because it might be a ground and pound type of game. They're playing San Francisco. Divisional matchup. They don't want to lose too much ground. And like I said, Murray, like you said, rather, I think Murray's going to be a game time decision because we keep getting he's out, he's in, he's out, he's out, he's out. So I think go back to your question. The two receivers that would benefit the most would be Ertz and Kirk. At this point, Rondell Moore, man, that last game, he basically, I forget which game it was, but he cost him the game. He had that muffed punt return when he let the ball go right through his hands. He dropped a couple passes. Rondell Moore, I was high on him a few weeks ago, but then lately his play has just dropped where he's just been having all these too many miscues. But I said weeks ago, watch out for Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is going to be that number 2 option. And some people didn't believe me, but trust me, he's going to be that number 2 option now.
Well, it's going to be this week. You're damn right on that one. All right, George Kittle returning to practice. Not cleared yet for this game. But, again, if you have him, if he's a go, you got to start George Kittle. He's still, again, in a position that's, you're few and far between who you're going to start. He's a definite start if he's in for you. So I would definitely just be wary of that. Latavius Murray. He is out for this game. So who do you like in that Ravens backfield? Do you like anyone in particular? Would you start anyone in that backfield, maybe even as a flex?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Cooper, because I happen to have Devontae Freeman. So, I happen to have Devontae Freeman, and all my other backs are on a bye. So I'm starting Devontae Freeman. Do I love it? No. Does he fall in the end zone? Yes. So maybe he might fall in the end zone twice. Who knows? But I'm going to go with him because that's all I got. So I think he's a good solid play. Do I think Le'Veon Bell comes back up and snakes some touchdowns? Sure. They're going to go. It's not going to be just a one-headed monster back there. So they're going to split carries, and they're going to go with the hot hand, and I hope it's Devontae. So let's roll the dice and let's see what happens.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, again, I'm not sure if I'd be starting anyone in that backfield this week, but if you're desperate this week, yeah, I mean, I would take a flyer. Like I said, Devonta Freeman could be a good play. Again, it's all about opportunities, all about touches. So, maybe even Tyson Williams shows up. Who knows? All right. So Cole Beasley, talking about opportunities. We talked about Emmanuel Sanders had a huge disappointing game last week. Cole Beasley saw a big uptick. He's out. Looks like he's going to be out this game. This looks like he's gearing toward. He's questionable right now. Obviously, we'll have Doc on to talk about that. But what do you think about Emmanuel Sanders if Cole Beasley's out this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Oh, I think he's going to have to step up, especially against Jacksonville. for as bad as that defense is, he's got to score. I mean, he's got to get at least he'll probably get at least like 10 targets, maybe 7 receptions, maybe 95 yards and a touch. That's what I'm predict. But like I said, the big dog's going to eat. It's going to be Stephon Diggs, and then of course don't forget about the backup tight end Sweeney. So Sweeney might steal a touchdown down there in the red zone, and if they can't throw the ball, they're going to run it with Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. The only thing is with those two is they seem to alternate series. And of course then by midway second quarter they figure out who's hot, and that's who they go with for the rest of the game. But I would say Emmanuel Sanders, don't make a dummy out of me. He might be a good play this week.
I think he's a great play this week. No worries. All right. Saquon Barkley, interesting. They had the conflicting reports of the COVID test. It was a false positive. However, got the ankle still. They're probably going to sit him again because they do have the bye, so there's no reason to play him. We talked about that with Gronk the previous week. He ended up going out with back spasms. So a smart move, I think, by the Giants to sit him. We'll talk about Doc with that as well. But Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay, both were limited in practice, so could be they're still questionable. So if they go, could be decent plays for you. Sterling Shepard did not practice, so you will not see him this game. Hence why they might be decent plays. And Dante Pettis is now on the IR. Devontae Adams, he's cleared off COVID, so you can not sure if you want to play him with confidence with Jordan Love as the quarterback. However, you are playing against Kansas City Chiefs, who at least their defense is not all that great, and coupled with the fact that they are going to need to keep putting up points. Not sure how they're going to approach this game, but it's not like they can just sit back and run the football all game long. They are going to utilize both these running backs. In fact, Aaron Jones, when we talk about it later, is my starting running back this week. Absolutely love the matchup and love him. But again, we don't know how the game flow is going to dictate what Jordan Love can do and what this Packers offense is going to look like. So not sure I'm starting him with confidence, but he is definitely in. And listen, you're going to start Devontae Adams. I mean, at the end of the day. All right, Eli Mitchell looks like he might go. He's questionable. And Jeff Wilson looks like he's cleared and will be going. So if you picked him up, I know we haven't talked about him much on this show, but it looks like he is ready to go. So I would definitely, if you haven't, look in your leagues. If nobody has Jeff Wilson, definitely scoop him up. He's the definite favorite of Shanahan. So going forward, that seems pretty decent. Taysom Hill, I just want to get your take on this real quick. He actually was cleared, looked like he was ready to go, but looked like the Saints are going to end up going with Trevor Siemian. What are your thoughts on that and impact on that offense?
I think it's a wise move. Again, when Taysom Hill got his shot, he didn't really take command of it. That's why they went with Jameis. Trevor Siemian, they're playing at Atlanta. They're not playing a really tough defense at all. He should keep them afloat this week. And then I think he's going to be the starter for the rest of the season because I don't know who else they got. I don't think they're going to go out and get a quarterback now. Everyone's screaming for Cam Newton. If Cam Newton hasn't been picked up by now, he's probably going to sit for the rest of the year, especially, when everyone says, oh, why isn't Ron Rivera go and pick him up? It's very telling when you have a coach that goes to a new team and their old quarterback is available and they don't make a move for them. It's very telling of what they're telling you. He's just not good anymore. He can't produce. So Trevor Siemian seems to be the guy right now. And Taysom Hill, he just seems to be a gadget quarterback at best at this point in his career. I don't foresee him coming and starting.
All right. It's funny. I don't know if you hear that or not, but it's so funny. My dog, every show, she literally waits till the show starts. And then right in the middle of it, she starts slurping up the water right now. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Hopefully you can't hear her. She waits every time. I literally throwing paper towels at her. She comes by because I'm like, I know what you're doing. All right. My bad. All right. So the last one we'll talk about in the news, Devontae Parker, actually not just out. He's on the IR, which kind of sucks. I mean, he was starting to resurge a little bit when he came back. What this does mean, though, is a lot of big uptick for Jalen Waddle. And if you weren't starting Gesicki before, you're definitely starting him now. Houston's defense, not all that great versus the past 18th. We'll talk about that more in our starts and sits because I'm kind of all over this matchup, which I kind of like as far as defense goes. So big impacts there. Miami's not obviously your fantasy home for your fantasy football team. However, might be, again, situational good matchups. Tua might have a decent game as well, so we'll look for there. Yes, Nick.
It's funny, up to a certain point. I think it was up to week 4, I believe. Gesicki was actually on pace to get 115 receptions this year, especially after the London game. So they say the best ability is availability, and he's always been available. So he's been the one cog in that offensive wheel that's always been there. So he's a viable start every single week because until he gets hurt or until his production dramatically drops off, which I don't see, especially in that offense, he's one of the top 3 options. So again, their lack of production from wide receiver, actually lack of play from the wide receiver, is really helping out Gesicki.
Absolutely. Will Fuller should be coming back soonish, so we might see him with a little uptick. We'll see. But again, it was funny. We had Vince from the sports podcast, the Stovetop podcast. Excuse me, I'm messing it all up. On our last show. And he actually had me on, I don't know what it was in June or July. It was the first time I was on YouTube. And, we had our preseason rankings out. And I had Gesicki, 5th or 6th. So, of course, he wanted to ask me about that, thinking it was a homer thing. But I kind of laid out the skinny for him. And basically, look what's happening. I didn't want to throw it in his face. I'm like, I try to tell you, bro. He's the guy. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. We're going to talk about our ultimate teams and our stardom and some for week 9.
Hey, Flanders here. Do you want to learn how to defend yourself, become more confident, and be more fit? If so, I recommend John Emmons Taekwondo in Kissimmee, Florida. At this dojang, you will learn an old art for a modern age under the tutelage of an 8th degree black belt master, John Emmons. If you want the martial arts to be part of your life and you value hard work with high quality results at reasonable prices, then John Emmons Taekwondo is the place for you. They can be found at emmonstaekwondo.com, and you can call them at 407-931-1118. John Emmons Taekwondo is our #1 pick for self-defense, and we are the fantasy show of the people.
All right, let's bring it up. I know I've been dominating this section, but let's see how it is now. Let's bring up our ultimate teams. Oh, yeah, that's the Ultimate Warrior entrance. You got to love that. All right, let's bring them up here. Here's our ultimate teams this week. I obviously like Josh Allen. I think, if you're crazy, if you don't like Josh Allen against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jonathan Taylor seemed like we all did, except for the Jester, who was actually at the game last night. So hopefully he took a little snippet of Jonathan Taylor last night, not on his ultimate team. Alvin Kamara on mine as well. Tyreek Hill, obviously, again, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Cooper Kupp's, again, it's all Cooper Kupp. Talked about Aaron Jones a minute ago, and again, we'll get into that when we go in our start and sits. Like him as well. Darren Waller at tight end, Bass at kicker, and Saints D. I like the matchup as well. For Nick, we're pretty similar at his. We got Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor together. He on his second RB, he goes Zeke Elliott there instead of Kamara. And on the first, receiver, he's got Brandon Cooks against that Miami secondary. So that's interesting. Stephon Diggs, again, Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs could be a decent matchup there. For his flex, Tyreek Hill, we like that matchup. Obviously, he's got Kelsey, you got to go with Kelsey every week. Not a bad option there. Justin Tucker and Bills D. I'm not going to read the other twos because they're not here. They don't deserve it. All right, let's go. So again, we'll see. Well, let's be fair. Not only are they not here, but both of them are third and fourth consistently every week in this particular category. So, it's true. The people that show up are the people that do well. What are you going to do? All right, let's go now to our stardom and sit-ups.
Oh, and we started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team. Yeah, started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom.
All right, let's talk about our stardom and sit-ums. All right, I'm going to bring up the graphic here in a second when my big fingers get to it. All right, here we go. For me, Tua, again, talked about this matchup. He's a good stardom this week. You've got to stream someone. He's the guy. I think it's a good option. You're going against Houston. They're the 18th pasty. I just like the opportunities. Again, you talked about Miami's pasty not being all that great. I do foresee Tyrod Taylor having a decent game in this matchup. So I think this might be one of those just back and forth games against two shitty teams. Let's be honest. Going back and forth at it. So, and I forgot to mention, we did have a contest running on Twitter. I will make the announcement here later who won 6 seats to the Miami Dolphin Houston Texan game down in Miami. So we did run a contest today. We wanted to see your ultimate teams this week. So we'll check that out. All right, Nick, let's talk about your stardom at quarterback. I just mentioned it, Tyrod Taylor. What are your thoughts there?
They play Miami. They're not very good on defense, especially against the pass. I'm going to do it later, but and Tyrod's coming back. So why not throw him in there? I mean, again, if you have another viable starter who's better, play them. But if you don't, stream Tyrod.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a bad streaming option. Miami 31st against the pass. They've always struggled against running quarterbacks. Look at Josh Allen. I mean, after to talk about the Lamar Jackson beatdown he gave, and probably going to happen again on Thursday night, he gave that defense. So, again, not a bad streaming option. Let's bring up the juice, Matt Stafford. He's got his stardom against Tennessee. 24th against the pass. And again, they're not going to be the Tennessee offense where they're going to ground and pound and grind it out. Sadly for them, they're going to have to put the ball in the air, which means, it could be an air show for Matt Stafford. So I like the stardom there for the juice. That's a pretty decent one there. And check this one out. What do you think about the Jesters? What do you think? What do you think about that stardom at quarterback? Kyler Murray, we just talked about him, might not even be playing in that game. So, Fred.
Dumbass. Thank these. They call me dumbass.
Well, I know who's going to come in fourth place this week.
I know.
I think Kyler Murray's the only name that he knows at quarterback because that's who plays every week. Regardless of the matchup, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And he says
the all Madden team.
He says in our group chat that he hates stardom and sit 'em. I'm like, what fantasy show doesn't do stardom and sit 'em, bro? I don't know what to tell you. All right, let's bring up our sit-ups. Boy, Fred, man, we're gonna troop on you tonight, bro. That's for sure. All right, Sam Darnold. That's my sit-em at quarterback. Again, you're playing Bill Belichick's defense. That's 14th against the pass, and he's very familiar with Sam Darnold with the Jets. So he knows his tendencies, his weaknesses. So I like the Patriots big over the Panthers this week, and not doing much for Sam Darnold. Talk about your sit-em there, Mr. Nick.
All right. Trevor Lawrence, as opposed to my stardom, which was Tyrod, going up against the Dolphins defense, who give up 340 yards and 4 TD passes to opposing quarterbacks. Mr. Lawrence is going up against the Buffalo Bills, who are number one across the board. They're number one against the pass, they're number one against the run, and they're number one against receivers. So, and they have, and he's without James Robinson. So he's going to have a long day up there in Duval. So, again, I don't see Trevor Lawrence having a productive day at all. He might even get pulled by the end of the game. So, I'm sitting Trevor Lawrence.
Here's a quick. Let's do a quick bet. Who do you think scores more? Is there any player on the Jacksonville Jaguars you think will score more than the Bills defense? The silence says it all.
I would say Trevor Lawrence, but not by much.
Yeah, the silence says it all. I mean, listen, if you're saying what you're saying, he's going to get benched and there's all these turnovers. I mean, it's going to be the Bills D. They're still going to score more than him. So, yeah, watch out for the Bills D this week. Obviously, that's definitely a great option. They've been great all season long. All right, so this is the problem with guys that don't come on the show. I mean, I can't – some of the stuff I'm just trying to defend here, but he's got sit Dak Prescott. Now, again, the Broncos defense are going against the Broncos. They are currently 10th against the pass, but they just lost their captain. They just lost Von Miller. Gone off the D. I don't know. I think that affects not just them play-wise, but emotionally. I just don't, again, I don't see a Denver defense bouncing back against this prolific offense. Again, you brought up Zeke as well. A great prolific offense against a defense that's kind of struggling now, lost its leader. I'm kind of confused why you'd sit Dak Prescott this week. What are your thoughts, Nick?
Dalton Schultz, and I'll tell you why whenever we get down there. But, I mean, I think, if I may, I believe Greg might be leery with his calf. He might not think that he's all the way back. So maybe that plays into it. And you know how Greg does. He always plays this game where you're going to sit someone who's a superstar that you wouldn't expect to sit in a big matchup who might not do well. That might be his play. Or he just might have just forgot to pick somebody and just threw him in there.
I just don't see Dak as a sit-em this week, but, who knows?
I don't.
Again, he's not here to defend it. So, all right, Baker Mayfield is a jester sit-em versus Cincinnati. They're actually 24th against the pass. However, and actually Baker plays better without Odell. So that whole connection, all that, weirdness is gone. You might see a decent game out of Baker. And obviously, I think that elevates Jarvis Landry a bit this coming matchup. So, again, the Bengals, are still a good defense, but, again, you got some motivation now. Baker wants to go prove himself without Odell. I think he might be a decent matchup this week, so I'm not sure I would sit him, but, who knows? What are your thoughts, Nick, on that?
Baker's going to be out to prove himself, saying that I wasn't the problem. I'm not the problem, but he wasn't part of the solution either. Right. So I think in that offense, you might get Njoku is going to get some more looks too. So, like I said, he was forcing the ball. I think he was like 31% QBR when he was forcing the ball to OBJ. And OBJ, who is a very good player, he brought down that offense. So that's my take on that, because I think Baker felt the need that he had to force it to him, even if it was covered by triple coverage. He's got to throw the ball to Odell when they had, referencing back to when they had the old Randy ratio back up in Minnesota. So again, great player, get him the ball no matter what, and it didn't work.
Indeed. All right, let's go to the running backs. My stardom at running back this week, I just mentioned it, Aaron Jones. I think that's a definite safe play. I also like A.J. Dillon in this matchup as well. KC 21st against the run. I did say earlier that they're not going to be able to, but they're certainly going to try to establish the run. And, again, we talked about Mike White. How well he did with the dump offs to Michael Carter. Jordan Love might take a little gameplay out of that. Obviously, Aaron Jones does well as a receiving back. So I think he's a solid play as a starting running back. Nick, let's talk about your starting running back this week.
Okay, I got Austin Eckler this week. They're going up against my Birds. I'm not too thrilled about it. But I got to go with data because data drives decisions, right? So I'm going to speak about data. Right now, the Eagles are giving up 30 points. These are all PPR, by the way. They're giving up 30 points to running backs on average each week, which is 31st, and the 28th in the red zone. So this is going to be a big game for Eckler to generate some yardage and definitely generate some points on average. Now that correlates to 109 yards and 1 touchdown per game. I think Eckler can do that, and I think Josh Jackson can also fill in there as well. But we're just going to concentrate on Eckler. Now Eckler also averages 17.5 points per game. All right, and Eckler's only scored. He's only scored in PPR. He always had one game with single digits, and that was 5.5 when they got slaughtered by Baltimore. Now, the Eagles and Ravens, they're both birds, but on defense, Baltimore's slightly better. So I'm going to go with Austin Eckler on this. I'm not a homer, so I just look at the data, and then I make my decisions from there.
All right. Well, thank you for all of that, Mr. Data. All right. Damian Harris is the starter for the Juice this week. I mean, he put D Harris, assuming that's what he meant. Damian Harris for the Patriots going against the Carolina defense that's actually 14th against the run. So interesting to see there. Actually, funny enough to bring that up, you actually have him as a sit. So let's just talk about that real quick. Funny how the Juice got a start. You got him as a sit. Why do you think he's a sit?
Well, unless I got my data wrong, I have Carolina number 2 against the run. They only give up 90 yards to running backs, and they only given up 3 rushing TDs. So and then you know how Bill Belichick is. Who's ever playing the best gets the ball. So I haven't looked up the who's deactivated because he could deactivate somebody right before the game. So I'm looking at a combo of Harris, Bolden, and Stevenson. So who's ever running hot that game, that's who's getting the ball. Now it's usually Harris. Harris is the man. He's going to get first dibs on it. But again, if what they plan to go in with the game isn't working, he's a master at changing up what he wants to do. So it could be a big Brandon Bolden game. We don't know. And again, Carolina's no slouch on defense. So that's why I went with sit Damian Harris.
The Jesters have Alvin Kamara as their starter. A great start this week. I like Alvin Kamara against the Falcons. Number 25 versus the run. So good call, I think, there. So for my sit-em, I got Eli Mitchell. We were just talking about this backfield a minute ago. Talk about the emergence of Jeff Wilson coming back. Don't know if he's going to start, but he's going to, in fact, at least eat in the carries, on top of the fact that Eli Mitchell is hurt, on top of the fact that they constantly run this Russian roulette in the backfield, so to speak. So, again, not a big play for me, Eli Mitchell this week. Arizona, by the way, 19th against the run. And Carolina, by the way, is 14th versus these are all run yards. I forgot to mention that when I say by the run. Those are yards per game. Run yards total. That's what we have Carolina there. Joe Mixon is the sit-em for the Juice. Cleveland, number 3 versus the run. I mean, again, at some point, we're getting late in the season. Who knows? We might see an injury pop up. And, oh, man, the Jester, man, he really digs deep for you guys. He looks for the guys that are not even playing as his
really?
sit-em. So,
Interesting.
Robinson.
He's definitely a sit.
He put James Robinson. Doesn't he like to even play? Thank you, Fred. Our listeners really appreciate you.
Dumbass. Thank these. They call me dumbass. Play kind entertainment. Stupid.
You know, Freddie's attention to detail lately has been impeccable. I'm telling you what.
It's on point. That's why he's eating too many snack breaks, I think. All right, let's go on to receivers. We'll talk about my stardom this week, and it's Jalen Waddle out of the America's team, the Miami Dolphins. Look, again, talking about this matchup, I like Tua, so obviously I, again, like Waddle. I like Gesicki. I like this matchup. It might just be, like, again, we talked about a minute ago, a fantasy bonanza. So again, go with Waddle this game. Easy stardom for me. Talk about your stardom this week, Nick, at receiver.
All right. Well, my stardom this week is going to come. Sorry, I had a frog in my throat. I'm going to go with somebody off of maybe a possible Super Bowl champion team this week, and it's not Cooper Kupp. It is actually Robert Woods, because Cooper Kupp was a little bit too easy to pick this week. So I went with Robert Woods. They're playing Tennessee. They're 32nd against the pass. They give up about 216 yards a game, a little over a touchdown per game to wide receivers. And I looked up Robert Woods' game log, and his best game was against Seattle, where he had 12 catches on 14 targets for 150 yards and 1 TD. And I would say that Seattle's defense and Tennessee's defense, passing-wise, is pretty much about the same. Maybe a couple ticks here and there. But he got you 15 points that day. So, of course, these are all PPR. So I'm looking that he's going to replicate these numbers because they might give a little more attention to Cooper Kupp. Like, how do you not follow number 10? Come on. So he might get those little outlet passes as well.
Yeah, I agree. I've been hot on Robert Woods. Again, Cooper Kupp can't keep on this pace. He's got to eventually feed over Robert Woods too. So he's going to have his blow-up games, I think, more down the stretch of the season. So I like him going forward. And again, 24th against the pass, Tennessee. So I do like the matchup. Juice got Stephon Diggs as his stardom this week. Again, they're Jacksonville 28th against the pass. Kind of simple one to call there. I do like him a lot. Josh Allen's going to have a decent game there. And Freddie has, ready for this, DeAndre Hopkins, who isn't even playing. So I'm not even going to just talk about it.
Dumbass. Thank these. They call me dumbass. Play kite in the stupid.
I mean, what do you, come on, bro. Jeez, oh, please. Anyway, all right. So let's talk about our situms this week. I actually have Adam Thielen this week playing the Ravens D, who surprisingly are the worst against the pass. I just starting to see, I think Justin Jefferson is due. And I think if there's going to be anyone who breaks out in this game, it's going to be him. I just don't see Thielen having a decent game in this particular matchup. Just one of those feelings that Kamish has, and he's been pretty decent so far. So, again, I'd be sitting Adam Thielen if I had to. Who do you got for your sit-em at receiver?
Well, I hope Justin Jefferson has a big game because I'm streaming Kirk Cousins this week. So, I have Mike Williams, I believe, for the second week in a row because for as terrible as the Eagles are against the run, they are number 2 against the pass because too many people are wasting time running on them, just like those Jets. I mean, you think the Jets are terrible on defense alone. They're not that bad against the pass because no one's throwing the ball against them. So the Eagles are number 2, I said, against the pass defense. They only give up 123 yards in the air to wide receivers. And this is going to be a ground game, I think, because here's the thing. The Eagles and Chargers against the run are number 2 and 3, respectively. The Eagles, like I said, they give up 123 yards per game, and the Chargers give up 134. So I think this is going to be a big game for your Chargers and your Eagles running backs. I don't think it's going to be too much in the air.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call as well. Juice for his, who's he got here? He has DJ
Moore.
Thank you, DJ Moore. Again, I don't like Sam Darnold. I agree with him here. I don't see a lot of production. And again, I know what he's going to say. Bill Belichick takes out the number 1 target. That's DJ Moore. So totally agree here. Now, the Jester, on the other hand, puts Robbie Anderson as a sit-em. So again, I can't disagree in the same token, but pay attention to the league text, will you? All right, let's take a cool break, and when we come back, we'll talk about tight ends. We'll talk about tight ends when we come back, and defenses. We'll talk about a couple Flanders flops before we head out as well. Some guys you might want to watch out for. So we'll be right back.
What's up, TSS family? This is Mike, the straw that stirs the drink. Now, I know we all have our own ways of grading talent on fantasy football. A huge part of it, much like in life, is passing the eyeball test. You always have to look your best so that you could be at your best. That's why I go to Underground Cuts Barbershop in Orlando. Rob and the boys have been making ballers in Orlando look their best so that they can be at their best, on the field or on the air. Nobody performs miracles like the barbers at Underground Cuts. So go check them out. They're at 1005 West Oak Ridge Road, Suite 6, 32809, or give them a call, 407-858-0080. Underground Cuts, a proud sponsor of TSS Fantasy, the fantasy show of the people.
All right, let's talk about our stardom tight ends. I have Dallas Goedert, only option there in Philly, and it might be a shoot 'em out there. But impressively, the Chargers are fifth against the pass, so it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be kind of boom or bust, I think, for the Eagles offense, but I do like him in this matchup. Let's talk about yours, my friend. Who's your stardom at tight end?
Okay, my stardom at tight end is Conklin. Okay, now the Ravens, as you say, are terrible against the pass. They're also terrible against tight ends because they give up 20 points per game to the tight ends, which is actually 32nd, dead last. So Conklin scored 13 points against Seattle. It seems like Minnesota had a field day against Seattle. So I'm looking for him to replicate those numbers. You know, he's been up and down, but if you can get off the schneid against a weak defense, you should see some targets. So that's why I went with Conklin this week.
Yeah, I like Conklin. Good. Baltimore struggling against tight ends. Gesicki is the Juices start him this week. And again, I already talked about him earlier, and Waddle with Devontae Parker out. That's a great matchup. I mean, again, the Jester really digging deep for you guys. He has Kelsey as his stardom, just in case you were wondering if you should start him or not. All right, let's go to the sit-ems. I have Tyler Higbee as against Tennessee. They're actually number 2 against tight ends. And let's face it, Tyler Higbee and that offense, there is just too many exciting playmakers to make things happen to get him involved. So, again, just seeing his production go down, and Tennessee's good against tight ends anyway. Who do you got as your sit-em, sir? Oh, you already brought it up, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, I had already alluded it to earlier when we were discussing Denver's defense. I have Dalton Schultz for a couple reasons. Number one, Michael Gallup's coming back, so that's going to scale back Dalton Schultz's production. And number two, Denver's only given up 8 yards per game to tight ends. They haven't given up any touchdowns to tight ends. So, if you conflate those factors, I always stay away from Dalton Schultz this week. Now, watch for me. He goes off like 18 points. But, knowing me. But based on those numbers and the fact that Gallup's coming back, I would sit Dalton Schultz.
Yeah. I can't argue with you. It's a decent argument there. Zach Ertz, the Juice has. We were just talking about him being a good start this week. So a little surprised that he has him so low. But San Francisco, and the one thing I'll say in his defense, San Francisco is number 3 versus the pass. So maybe that's kind of where he's going there. And also with maybe Kyler Murray being out, maybe that's his thought process. So that maybe I'll give him I won't give him a dumbass on that one. And again,
guru, so he would know.
Right, indeed. And again, it's like I don't think he likes this guy, CJ Uzomah. The Jester puts him again as a sit-em. He does it every week for some reason. Again, it must be all that in-depth studying he's doing. Against Cleveland's D, though, they are number 7 against the pass. So, not a bad idea to sit CJ Uzomah if you have some better options. All right, real quick, we'll run through the defenses. I got Cowboys this week. Again, with their matchup against Teddy Bridgewater lately has been showing that, again, he's going back to the Teddy Bridgewater, kind of limited in what they have. So I like the Cowboys. They're very opportunistic. Going to make some things happen. So I do like them in this matchup. You dug deep and got the Rams. But it's not a bad idea, But did you want to speak on that real quick or?
I will real quick, just for you. I went with the Rams because obviously Derrick Henry's out. So now they got a fourth Tannehill to throw the ball, and he only averages 250 yards. He's got 10 TDs and 7 picks. So they're really going to they're going to put the screws to him. Now they got Von Miller. I don't know how much he's going to play due to he just got there. But if you got Von Miller and Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey on one side of the ball, good luck, because that's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's a solid start this week. Not for nothing. But again, everyone knows you're going to start him.
Low-hanging fruit. Yeah.
very, very low indeed. All right. I'm sure there's some more low-hanging fruit here. Actually, the Juice went with Miami here. He likes the Dolphins against Tyrod Taylor. Oh, the Jester, look what he did. He went with the Bills against Jacksonville. Boy, that's a big stretch. I don't even know. My sit-up this week for defense, Broncos. Again, I talked about that earlier. I like Dak Prescott and that offense going in there and just, having a real good game. And you got the Bears this week. Talk about that really quick for your sit-up.
Okay, well, they're playing the Steelers, so I'm biased. But the Bears give up 19 points to quarterbacks, 22 to running backs, which is 13th. They're 26th against wide receivers, and they're 6th against tight end. So I'm looking for Najee Harris to have a big game, and I think Big Ben floats them in there. And that's all I got to say about that.
All right. Let's real quick talk about some Flanders flops. Some guys might not do so well this week.
Gucci flip flops, make a kick rock. This a big clock. Check the wristwatch. Gucci flip flops, fuck you, hit your bitch and massage. This a big.
I don't know why I like that song so much. All right. Cordell Patterson is actually someone I think might be a Flander flop this week. You're going against tough New Orleans defense. And listen, bro, you are the literal only option other than Kyle Pitts. So if you don't think they're keying up on you, you are crazy. So I think Cordell Patterson is going to be a flippy floppity this week for me. I also have Mr. Scott from the Eagles. I know. Mr. Boston Scott. I figured I'd throw the Philly guy at you, Nick. I just think this week when you're talking about this particular matchup, I like Kenneth Gainwell going a little more forward. I still think that they're going to lean a little more on him. With Jordan Howard as well. And again, Chargers D, tough all the way around. This could go either way, but again, he could be somebody that's floppity on you this week. Also, you can talk about this. I'll kick this one to you. I think Khalil Herbert could be a big flop this week. Again, talking about David Montgomery, talking about this matchup. You were just talking about it against the Steelers. Very tough against the run. So your thoughts on him being a flop this week?
I don't necessarily think he'll be a flop. And I don't think, as much because I have David Montgomery, as much as I love him to play, I don't think it would be wise for the Bears to play him this week. Give him the extra week. You have a bye. Khalil Herbert has established himself as the number one guy there right now, and he's going to be the number two guy. I don't think he's going to be necessarily a flop. I think he might give you low double digits, maybe 10 or 11 points. But Pittsburgh is tough against the run. So I would say a marginal flop. So we could put him flop-ish.
A little flippity flop-ish. All right, so that's going to close us out for tonight. Don't forget to check us out Sunday morning, 8 to 9 a.m. Wake up with TSS Fantasy. Start your mornings belly up, or Sunday mornings belly up. We're going to have a whole lineup for you. We're going to wake up with us. We got the coffee. We got all the grinds out. We're going to sit here and make some waffles, some pancakes. Bring out the good matchups. We're going to talk about each matchup, talk about the weather in each game, and we'll have a little bit from Dr. Miller, talk about some of the injuries and questionable players going into this week. Don't forget, again, check us out on social media. Just had the contest for the football game. We'll be doing a little contest like that, so make sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of it. And again, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That way you can be alerted for all of our great content. All right, guys. Again, TSSFantasy.com. Visit us there. We are the Fantasy Show of the People, and we are out.
Thank you, Philly.